Joe on there, and this is the Monday, June 26th. It is 11:06 a.m. This is the weekly work session. I'm Gage Froer. With me is Commissioner Sharon Bolos, Commissioner Jim Harvey. We're going to start with discussion and or action for approval of our minutes held on June 12th, 2023.
Move to approve.
We had a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes are approved. So we're now going to our 11 o'clock deferral agreement discussion. And we've got a full house.
I'll say.
We got Gary Myers, Chad Meyerhopper, Ashley's here. Ashley's not here.
He's not
Okay, we,
here. Tucker's
Sean
here.
Wilkinson, Bill Ross is not here. Cortland's here. Scott Park is here. Chris Crockett's here. Hey, welcome back, Chris.
Wow.
Wow.
Chris
Look at him
with a big
smile.
smile on
Look at that
his face.
smile.
And we've got Tucker here. So Tucker, you're sorry, you're not on the list.
That's all good.
And Cortland, you're not, yeah, Cortland, you're on the list. All right, who's gonna start this?
I'm happy to take it over, commissioners. So, I wanted to chat with you guys for a little minute, about deferral agreements.
Okay.
Historically, what we have done is, as a development comes, a lot of times it's in an area that maybe isn't ready or would be the first section of that road.
Remind me what the deferral agreement is.
Basically, what it does is whenever it's mostly been applicable to curb gutter sidewalk improvements along the road. If it's in a section of road that maybe they were the first ones there, or maybe we didn't feel it was ready for it yet, we've allowed the developer to have deferral agreements put on each of the properties. Well,
Which basically doesn't get him off the hook, but just delays the time that he has to put in the curb.
almost correct. It actually kind of gets the developer off the hook and it puts the cost of
Yeah.
those improvements on the lot. Now, what happens, this is the
Oh.
problem we're running into. Then those unsuspecting lot owners come in and buy this lot. Well, let's say 10, 15 years marches on and we as the county say, okay, guys, guess what? We're gonna do a curb and gutter sidewalk project. Because now we have a new high school or a new elementary or some other improvement or new development that now dictates the time that we say, hey, it would be really good if we had curb gutter and sidewalk. Well, then those unsuspecting lot owners now get hit with the bill for the frontage of that lot total, which could be significant,
So,
right?
Gary, back up. So you say a lot, but a deferral agreement, if you've got a lot, that means it's been through the subdivision process.
Correct.
Deferral agreements that I've kind of been part of in the past dealt with a vacant piece of ground that wasn't subdivided, which basically said, if and when I subdivide, I agree to do X, Y, and Z.
So
So how does a lot enter into that? I don't
It can
understand.
be both, quite frankly, Commissioner,
Okay.
or it can be both. And so in some situations, we've seen where a subdivision has gone in and been built, and we haven't required some of the curb and gutter, and the
Okay.
deferral agreements have been on it.
Okay,
So essentially what I'm trying to bring to the discussion is I'd like to avoid an uncomfortable conversation or situation in the future where some unsuspecting property owner now gets the bad news, so to say, that they would be covering the frontage value of those improvements for that project that we would then necessitate or deem appropriate to do so. So what we've I've talked with my guys, that's why I've got Tucker and Chad here. We actually went as far as meeting with Farmington City a couple of weeks ago. Farmington City, probably almost 10 years ago, unfortunately for them, was front page in the news on a deferral agreement call-in where they did a section of 150 West right by the new high school in Farmington. And Commissioner
Yep.
Wallace is shaking your
My
head. You
sister
probably
lives there. I know.
remember that
all about it.
vividly, and it was ugly, to put it quite frankly. Residents had private lots where maybe they had split it off from their father's lot or family lots, and they were lot owners, that they had deferral agreements, kind of like what you were describing, Commissioner Frower. Not so much from a large scale subdivision, but where they had subdivided into 1, 2 smaller lots.
yeah,
It became as visceral as residents picketing the city outside the city hall, wanting to fight back against this. We've talked with Scott Park, and I'm using the example of, say, 10 lot subdivision that fronts on a rural road
Yeah.
or something like that. That's the case in point here. We kind of kicked it around ourselves, and we're thinking probably the cutoff is 3 lots or more, we're gonna suggest that we ask the developer or whoever's subdividing that property, they put the infrastructure in then. If we were to do, say, an escrow, whatever amount they put into that escrow, it might be 10 years or more that we would wait until we come back and try to do those improvements. And as you all are very much aware, that amount put in at that time, 10 years later or further down the road, or whatever time period that is, it's just not enough. It's
No.
just not gonna be near what it needs to be. And so rather than fight the battle of trying to track the money in the escrow, and then that gives another line item for Scott to track in the budget and wonder what the heck is this and when are we gonna do this? Our thought is, look, 3 lots or more, we just have the person doing the work, take a stab at doing it. At this point, we pretty much know where drainage needs to go in the county. We know where we're gonna have it go. It might require some participation from us. Maybe we help in upsizing lines if our master plan calls for it to be bigger or whatever the case may be, we cross that bridge as we come to it. But I'm trying to avoid a situation where someone unsuspecting kind of gets some bad news, right? And so 1 or 2, yes, we can look at deferral agreements, but 3 or more, I'd rather try and have somebody take a shot at trying to put it in. And hey, there is the very real chance we may miss the mark and we may need to maybe go as far as even ripping out sections of curb and gutter that we put in and put them in the right way. But at least we tried. At least we tried, and we didn't pass the buck onto somebody else unsuspectingly in the future.
It is
Okay.
awkward. I had an experience when I was a planner and somebody did a 1-lot subdivision. We required the deferral agreement. And in the recorder's office, he sat there and wrote on the agreement. He signed it, but he wrote, "I am signing this agreement under duress." And it's recorded that way. But I talked to the attorneys and they said, "We don't care what he writes." Not a binding agreement. But to that level, there's a lot of emotion tied into these things because it's a future promise that people don't want to make financially, so.
And if you think about it, with what real estate values have done over the last 5 years, they've really skyrocketed. So a lot of folks are buying property, starting to build homes, they're getting into it, and boy, they probably maybe even push themselves maybe even a little farther than they should have in their budgetary constraints, or they're right at the limit. And then suddenly to get hit with a $10,000 or $20,000 surprise that they didn't know about, that might mean a secondary mortgage, that might mean a HELOC, that might mean something else that, they sign a lot of documents at closing on a property. They really do. And they would be signing the acknowledgement of that deferral agreement. But a lot of times we've seen that people don't necessarily remember, recollect, or understand everything that they're signing in that process.
So the deferral agreement is on record.
It gets recorded.
And there is an acknowledgement that takes place at closing.
That's right.
So those buyers know that.
They should, yeah.
They should, but and again, yeah, I've sat through just a couple of closings in my life. Not every buyer reads every document that's put in front of them.
Does any? Is there-
Yes, some do.
Some do, not, those are the ones that I walked out on. I'll see you in 2 days.
And that's why we're kind of bringing this to you today in our limited or foolish or whatever you want to say, call it. Our intentions are, we would like to try to eliminate that uncomfortable situation in the future. And we would like to try to take a shot at doing it the right way at this point. And then that way, we're starting to see, especially with the master plan update that we have recently gone through, we're starting to see some people move on some development of some property that probably historically maybe held off a little bit, but now they're seeing maybe some higher density and they're seeing some options, and maybe kids don't want to farm that, right? I mean, we've seen that a lot too. The younger generations are not all that interested in running the property, maybe how the older generations did. And so we just are thinking, this is what we as my department put our heads together and said, well, maybe 3 is the number. If you guys have any different direction or advice or anything you want to offer to us, we're certainly open to.
So why is 3 the magic number? I mean, first comes back, why wouldn't we do it? If they do a deferral agreement, it's because they don't want to do the improvements now.
That's right.
So why would we approve a subdivision that the improvements aren't there and they promise us in the future that could then be passed on, just like you said,
That's right.
to one or two buyers down the road?
It's a great question.
I mean, they're
Commissioner.
if it's a lot, they're selling that as an improved lot.
That's right.
Why would we give them a deferral agreement? And again, the other option would be escrow,
Yeah,
but
no, and,
I mean, we're kind of creating our own mess here.
well, we are, but then not doing something. Just continual deferral agreement after deferral agreement also creates another mess that could be a problem later on.
Are you on your, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well,
Why do we even have to have a deferral agreement? Why?
Well,
that's kind of where I
Because
was.
I think right now, you've just made a very good case. Why at all?
The issue that we've always discussed in the past was if we have a one lot subdivision out in the middle of nowhere and we require them to put in curb and gutter. and-
Just for the frontage.
Yeah, then we don't know what it's going to look like coming in to connect to that. And we may bear the cost in the future because that becomes ours once they put it in.
yeah,
Then we get to rip that out and make it all work. So we pay for it in the end. Again,
Yeah,
that's the argument behind the deferral.
How often does that happen?
I don't know. I'd have to,
You always had deferrals.
yeah. It's always kind of been standard practice, so to speak, historically that we've followed and, you know, and to go back to your previous question, Commissioner Farrar, we kind of arbitrarily picked the number of 3 because usually when you're doing 3 or more, you kind of, once you get to the point you're doing 3 lots, you've started to dice them down into smaller frontages, the front of the street. And so that's kind of the answer to that question you just asked. And our thought is usually if there's 3 lots or more, you're kind of looking at a larger scale subdivision where you're gonna have stormwater detention and things like that incorporated into it as well too.
okay. Commissioner Bowe, Yeah.
Yeah, 1 and 2, we would look at it and potentially entertain that deferral
Okay.
agreement.
No,
Obviously, I'd like to not have any of them.
there is a purpose. Go
So
ahead.
what, on the three and more, you're talking about what fronts the road, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. We've done this so much in West Haven with
Yeah.
larger, and by larger, I mean more than 3,
Sure.
4 to 10 to 20, you
Yeah.
know.
That you've done deferral agreements?
No, that we've had them put the
Oh.
curb and gutter
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
And it looks choppy at first, you know, but as that, like 3,300 is a great example right now.
Yeah.
You know, there have been a couple subdivisions go in, the road widens, they have curb gutter and sidewalk, and then the county comes in. Or the city, both of them are participating, and they just fill in the blanks,
That's right.
but,
they have to match up to it.
yep,
And that would be the other option. And what I hear you saying is you think that that would be too much speculation to say, okay, this is where the curb and gutter is gonna go, put it in,
that's been the argument that I've always heard as to why we have the deferral agreement,
okay?
but
but on a bigger subdivision, you have a pretty good idea.
sure.
If it's a one lot subdivision, that anything else could happen behind that ground.
Yeah.
But once you have more than 3, they're probably developing 10 or more acres. It
Yeah,
makes total
no,
sense to me. We've done it for a long time, since the Farmington issue.
Yeah, well, and it
That was
was,
really a catalyst for that requirement in West Haven.
yeah, I was very good friends with the city at that time as they were enduring that experience and it was, boy, I feel bad for them, you know, but they were doing everything right.
Mhm.
They were following the rules and it just became such a painful result for some of those folks that property had been in their family for
Yeah,
years.
no,
and generations.
Nobody likes those last minute surprises.
Yeah, they can be really painful. And we're just trying to be proactive in bringing this before you, is probably the best way of describing it. We don't have anything right now that's creating this issue. We have had some other deferral agreements and issues come up where we've, you know, but it's been 1 and 2 lots.
But it got brought up because of the subdividing off the substandard road.
Yeah,
So that kind of brought it to attention a little bit. Where, you know, the road's like on 3600 west, we have a 1 lot subdivision coming in.
Mhm.
And according to our new code, he has to provide a cost estimate and pay his portion amount. And it just, I don't know. So that's kind of what brought it up as far as
Yeah.
we would make this do the deferral Cause it doesn't make sense to even put this in for one lot sub, so I think that's kind of what brought it all up.
And in his situation, he was actually a really good individual to work with. He was willing to do whatever we asked him to do, but it kind of felt like a gray area. We wanted to at least have a discussion with you guys.
Yeah, I don't like, and we called Scott Park, cause we wanted to, for that substandard road, is they'd provide a cost estimate, we'd approve that cost estimate, and then they have to give us money for that, for their portion. Well, we don't have a system set up for that, right?
Well, we could build one for it. We
Yeah.
don't have one to track it that way, but then the other concern is, okay, so he writes me a check for $20,000 and in 7 years or 17 years, now I need to write $60,000
Yeah.
check out. And so,
That's why escrows don't work in that case, because you don't have a time frame.
Exactly.
yeah. Plus the time and effort to build the track. I mean, we could track it similar to our escrows, because we do track something now, but it's just like, do we want to invest the time and effort to build something and accept the risk, which is why I wanted to have this discussion with the commissioners, is what's the risk you're willing to take? Do we want to take the cash up front and hope that it's enough in 20 years? Do we want to just say, look, you got to build it, even if it's a one lot subdivision and you're just dividing your dad's field in half? You know, we're gonna make you put in curb gutter and sidewalk on this little piece and then
That's the
have nothing
option.
for half a mile in either direction. You know, that's that.
By the time it gets around it, it probably needs to be torn out because it's decayed anyway, so,
Mm.
I mean.
And we're
Who
open,
knows?
we're open for discussions, commissioners. If we arbitrarily pick the number 3 erroneously and you wanna change that 4 or 5, whatever that number is, we just wanted to get the ball rolling, get the discussion moving on this so that we can at least make. a
No, I
decision
appreciate
on
you
it.
bringing. So Cortland or Chris, legal question.
Yeah.
On that acknowledgement that we record against the property, do you see any issues with enforcement on that? Do we,
As long as,
should it be more clear?
yeah, as long as it's recorded and it acts as a covenant running with the land, it should be enforceable.
Buyer beware. It's the political nature of enforcing those types of
Right.
requirements, but. So the ordinance as it's written right now gives the discretion to the county engineer to determine when and if a deferral agreement is required. That puts a lot of pressure on your department because you're gonna have a lot of people coming in and asking for them. We might wanna change the ordinance to make it less discretionary and set the amount that the commission would like to see, where we would require the improvements be installed for any subdivision of so many lots and larger. And then still maybe leave the discretion, not to say we're going to allow deferral agreements, but to leave the discretion to allow one for subdivision of 3 lots or smaller, still up to the county engineer. That should take some pressure off of your team.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. That's a great idea. I like that a lot, actually.
One thing so I think this makes a lot of sense for out west where there's already a lot of curb and gutter.
Yeah.
But up in the valley where
Yeah.
there's not near as much curb and gutter, is this something that we wanna start doing, is making people important, put curb and gutter in and sidewalk, or is it? I guess,
Ordinance used to be written that way where it would allow or require deferral in the Ogden Valley.
Yes.
And then we changed it so it was more uniform.
correct.
We meaning the county. Probably Charlie, but,
Well, there's a lot of areas in the Ogden Valley that aren't gonna see curb, there'll be no need for curb gutter and sidewalk for a long period of time.
I mean,
That's
Maybe
why we
even ever.
required the deferral, yeah.
that's why I bring that question up, because out west it makes more sense to have.
Out west,
curb gutter and
yeah, you're
sidewalk.
starting to see it, but up in the valley,
I mean, yeah, do we require the drainage swells and
I,
the shoulder and things
I
like
don't see
that?
it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, thoughts, direction, what do you guys wanna?
Commissioner Bowles?
I'm not as familiar with the Upper Valley, but I agree with you that it's not as close in the future, but Western Weaver County, absolutely.
Yeah,
I would love to see that required at
Okay.
the time of development.
3, so are you okay with the
I-
3-year
I
less?
don't, yeah, that's great.
Okay,
3 or less, or
3 or more requires the infrastructure.
3 and
to go.
more.
3 or more, not-
The widening, the curb gutter, whatever else is in the,
so basically, if you have a 1 lot or 2 lot,
you can still.
do a deferral, you
if-
start with 3,
If we're comfortable with it, yeah, and then, but once you get to 3, from 3 or more on.
yeah,
We would request that they look at the
3
broader
plus.
picture and do a drainage design that can accommodate our intentions.
well, and so I'm okay with that. I'd like to see maybe that ordinance change, as Chris suggested, that
Okay,
if somebody had a special case that had 5 lots and it looked like it's not been developed for 10, 15 years, and bring it to us.
okay, We can consider one case by case.
Go ahead. You want Ogden Valley
Yeah,
separately treated in the ordinance then, or?
Yeah, I just don't see any reason to open that can of worms in the valley right
Well,
now.
because they're a three, one
It's-
house for 3
Yeah, it's right.
acres, so, yeah.
The areas like that we're seeing in those subdivision that, Wolf Creek, et cetera.
Yeah.
Those are smaller lots or condos, they're gonna put it in anyway.
That's right.
But the 3 acre, nobody's gonna put in curb and gutter on a 3 acre lot.
Yep, exactly.
It just makes no sense.
And
Now,
we-
road improvements, we start talking about widening the road, then that's, maybe we need to address that separately.
Sure.
Cortland, but as far as curb gutter sidewalk, no.
when we could put in the ordinance language that states that there's specific reasons why the lower valley, Western Weaver should be treated differently. We see that it's different growth, different lot size requirements. We could separate that
Yeah.
out. You're going to have to, if you want to create a system where it says we'll consider a deferral agreement for subdivisions that are larger than 3 lots, if there's like extenuating circumstances, or if you can justify why it would make sense, but that's going to open up the potential for appeals, which we already have an ordinance that allows that. That's just something to be aware of.
So we could just go the regular appeal route rather than put that in the ordinance.
Well, what we would do is, if you don't want to make it a hard and fast rule that says anything that is 3 lots and larger, will be no deferral agreement. You have to go ahead and install the improvements. If you want to entertain an exception to that, and they have to demonstrate that there's going to be extenuating circumstances, or there's a reason why we shouldn't apply our ordinance, then you're opening it up to an appeal process. Because if we say no, we're going to still require that you install the improvements. They might disagree, they could disagree with that and challenge your decision on that. Do you see it differently? Cory?
Well, an alternative, no, I don't see it differently. An alternative would be to leave it as it reads right now and just leave it up to the engineering division's discretion, period. And I mean, there are some guidelines.
Is that how it is now?
Right now, it says if it's for curb and gutter, it says it may be deferred. The county engineer may allow curb and gutter to be deferred to a later time if it is in the best interest of the street system. For a sidewalk, it says where no sidewalk currently exists in the area, or where a subdivision's required sidewalk is premature, giving existing conditions, it may be deferred. So it already has some language there.
That's not bad language,
You
actually.
could have it as just a known policy that Gary is going to follow that policy, if you will, unwritten policy, or however you want to term it.
But then everybody comes to us. Well, can we break that policy just for us? I'm putting in 3 lots, and
Right, it does create those issues if it's not black and white, if you leave it to their discretion. So there are options there, and yeah, Chris is right, I think, about the
Yeah,
issues with putting a hard and fast rule if there are gonna be exceptions allowed, because that could end up in the same situation. They come to you or they appeal, or.
The fact that we allow the engineer to have discretion to determine whether or not to allow a deferral agreement already opens us up to the opportunity for an appeal.
It does. Has that ever happened?
I've never really had anybody
We should always do deferrals.
object. Yeah, we've kind of always done
Yeah,
deferrals.
It's all good with it.
you just signed the deferral.
Yeah.
And as we do those deferrals, it's always been in the back of my mind that, guess what, this might come back and bite
Yeah.
us in the future. And-
Well, I like
Or the people.
I like
Yeah.
you setting the policy, but I like it, so it's
Okay.
black and white on 3 or more.
Well, okay, so maybe that's what we'll do then.
Yeah.
We'll just leave
Yeah.
the ordinance how it is, but know that we've had this discussion,
Yeah.
which quite frankly has been very helpful for you guys to understand our position on this and know why we would make a decision
Yeah.
the way we would.
No,
So,
And you can always reconsider in the future if it gets to be unworkable, if there
Yeah.
are unintended consequences with that, we can look at the ordinance.
Well, it's probably a good approach, the way that you're suggesting it now, because to do such a hard and fast switch, even though you're essentially doing that anyway, but it's an unwritten policy,
yeah,
just to put that in ordinance, you might get a lot of pushback, and then we can just apply the policy for a while, and then we just codify it in ordinance in a later date.
yeah, I like that.
Codifying.
Okay. I like it.
Perfect.
Commissioner Bowles, any other
Nope.
comments? Commissioner Harvey? Okay, appreciate you bringing that to us. Yeah, I just don't like the idea of, going 5 or 10 years down the road. Somebody's bought a lot, they've long forgot the acknowledgement, the deferral agreement. Now we're the bad guys.
That's right.
For
And,
generations,
Yeah,
because we
and-
enforced the policy they signed.
That's right.
and
It's worse crap.
it just, if you could avoid those uncomfortable situations as much as possible, but sometimes it's hard to do. So,
No, good discussion, commissioners. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
thank you.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure this was thought through. And it was. So, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
I don't know.
What's this good?
Who's coming here next?
This is.
Sean,
Next one is the Mountain Views subdivision. This is the developer.
and I'm cutting that back for a half hour. just so
I
you
think
know.
that's fine.
So I get Ash? Probably.
Yeah.
I'll send that.
And I've got Rick and Charlie coming up for this as well.
Okay, so this is Pat Burns, but,
Pat Burns and John Price. Yeah,
This is on their Mountain View. Is this out west?
this is out west.
Yeah, Mountain View is the next phase of the Carroll,
Oh, okay.
isn't it? I believe.
I don't know.
Mountain
View is 7,500.
Oh, it is? I misspoke. It's the one south of the railroad tracks.
Well, they got water and sewer out there?
They just, I think they got annexed into Little Mountain.
Good to see you, right, man?
We can ask that question though.
Yeah.
What's that?
He asked about
They-
water and sewer.
I think you're right. They got annexed, but I don't think we've given them a will serve.
That may be the case.
We don't know what we've got out there. right?
Yeah, yeah,
Until we run that infiltration.
yeah. Hey, commissioners, just so you know, we got a nice thank you letter from the Utah Rivers Council. The Rain Barrel Program.
Oh, nice.
So that's
Was it
what this
successful?
is. Yeah, I don't think we had too many from the unincorporated area, but they said it was a successful event. People showed up, got their rain barrels, they were happy.
There's only one city that did it, is that right?
North Ogden, yeah.
Nobody else took up on it, huh? So do you know what their discussion's about?
Don't.
Because this is the one we met with them individually last week or the week before. wasn't it?
Talking to Charlie, he said he thought it was about the egress. And 2 egresses or 1
Oh.
egress.
That's the same situation they asked me about.
Okay.
They asked you, they met with all three of us.
Oh, I remember.
We've been getting a lot of questions from residents about this subdivision, well, about both of their subdivisions and. Quite frankly, they're still early enough. They haven't even submitted anything to me or my department yet as in regards to that. So.
Hey, Rick. Hey, Rick. Well, that confuses me because when I met with them, they had somebody else in the room that said that had already put their improvements in
Yeah, that was me too.
to the east. They said,
West,
was it west?
west. It was to the west.
Okay. So do you know anything about that? I mean, they said they got all their improvements in, but haven't applied for a subdivision. Which,
How was your cruise?
how do you?
good. Very good. Did it look like it got a little?
How would you do that?
I'm just here to support.
Well, that's the
Tell me to play all walk.
tan.
It looked like it-
We're talking
I'm
about.
regretting coming to
So you mentioned they had some improvements put in. And then.
Yeah, they said they'd already put their underground in and, yeah,
Are we ready?
we'll find out. Find out right now.
Yeah, fine, guys.
Come on in.
Thank you.
How are you? Good, how you doing? Good. How you doing?
Yeah.
Have a seat. Pat, welcome.
Sir.
So just so you know, I'm cutting this back to a half hour here.
You're not gonna need that.
Yeah, you don't think I need. So we're here to talk on our 11:30 discussion, Mountain View subdivision. Pat is with us, Pat Burns, Link Construction, John Price is with us.
Michael Zern,
And who are you with?
with Pat.
Okay, with Pat. Okay,
Link Development.
okay.
Ashley.
Yeah, we're here together. Okay, so who wants to lead out on this? Sean?
I'm probably not the best one to lead out on this.
Okay.
It'll either be Rick
Rick,
or
you-
Charlie or Gary.
Yeah, I'm not sure we didn't put this on the agenda. I think Pat requested it.
Yeah.
This came.
I can lead out if you guys want.
Yeah,
or
go
do you
ahead.
need Staff to do it, or, this is, kind of a combination of cumulative discussions over the past 2 years-ish on the 7,500 West. And then Weaver County for The emergency egress going east and emergency egress going west. And John Price's subdivision right now is the main topic of the subdivision, of the discussion is his subdivision. And then just to kind of get further information on, exactly what our thoughts are kind of moving forward, what your thoughts are. Just make sure we're all on the same page and just moving forward. As you guys know, I own and working on everything west of the river and south of the railroad tracks and 7,500 west and east. John's working on 7,500 west and south of the railroad track. So those two tracks of land. Does that make sense?
How far west are you intending to go, John, on all your stuff?
As far as the levy?
So would you take your development all the way right up to the sewer pond?
No, that's Pete.
Okay,
Pete, with Litchfield, they have an
yeah.
industrial plan
yeah,
for most of that. I'll just take a portion of that. Most of my stuff's up against 7,500.
okay,
And it'll go about as farthest west it goes about what would be 8,300.
okay.
Is that as far west?
But you're both south of the tracks on
Both
7,500.
south. Yes, sir.
Yep.
You're going east and you're going west?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, got it. Okay.
And what we had kind of discussed, over the years was going east and west with the emergency access road. We both have got it approved, got it done, got it approved as far as from the landowners and have easements going through where we need. Kind of what we're here to discuss and ask would be if we can focus on going east, and that is taking the emergency egress east. And the reason for that is going west it's further, but it's also not ever really going to be used. It would truly be emergency use only. If we go east, we're actually going to be putting a road in where, that money spent, because we got to go a little over 2 miles. So the money spent putting that in would be used. That's where we're following 1600. That's basically where the bridge is going to go over. So we're putting a road into where we're going to put the bridge. And then the emergency will just kind of follow over to and go north and go around Wade's Dairy. And that's where we're crossing for the emergency.
That
egress.
existing crossing on the railroad track.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And Weaver County owns that road going up to the railroad tracks, and there's an easement crossing into Don Meekham's piece. And then I have the easement from Don Meekham over to Jerry Weaver. And then I own from Jerry Weaver on to 7,500. So we have, as far as, the easements, get everything done, it's already recorded and done. So we're just kind of asking for, John is already pretty far
Charlie, is
along.
this you doing this?
She's gonna say it'd be
Yeah.
helpful to have a map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But John is already, you can see right there where 7,500 west is where the 7 and 5. Yeah, he's got that infrastructure already in right there. He's got 21 lots, John.
Yeah, correct.
He's got 21 lots done just about to curb.
Hmm.
And so what we're looking for is him to get approval to continue and then record his Mylar. And then at C of O, John and I both agree that we will have the road, emergency access road completed to meet fire safety standards. Right now, I could take a car and from the east side where it crosses over Wade's Dairy, I can take a car and drive it all the way up to right where Charlie is. I can take my car and drive it right there. I could take a Jeep or a truck and drive it all the way up to 7,500 west with no problem. I wouldn't take my little car, but I would take a Jeep or a truck easily. I've done it multiple times. John's done it 100 times.
That's basically an ag easement, isn't it?
It's an I have an actual easement recorded now for emergency access.
Okay, but when I say
It's an ag road right now.
12 foot or 15, whatever.
Correct.
It's an ag road.
Right, and you can tell you can drive a swather.
Yeah, it's like my 16-foot swath fits on it, so it's about, I'd say
Okay.
about 17
All right,
feet roughly,
all right.
But what will,
So you've got easements,
yes, sir.
that on the entire length,
Entire length, yes.
okay? And so is your intent to improve that or grade it, or what's your,
Yeah, we'll come in and improve it. We'll put get the road so it's accessible, so anybody could drive, emergency vehicles is all it's used for, but in an emergency, anybody could drive that road. So what we're asking is John could continue with his subdivision, his development, and then require John and I to have that road finished before he gets C of O. We're both committing to you guys, we'll get that road finished. And what I'm working on right now, and we're getting pretty far down the road, we're about 80% there, is putting the development agreement for my development together. And in that development agreement, it's gonna spell out specifically, just like you guys had asked us to do, is how we are going to start putting the bridge across. Most important thing was financially, what we're committed to do and how far we're willing to go, so you guys will allow us to start building. So I'm not gonna present anything until we have that development, because our project is just so big, but we're getting close. But I'll have that development agreement for you guys to go over to make sure you agree with it roughly. And there's a whole 20 pages of lawyer stuff, but the most important that I can break it down pretty simple is $5,000 for each lot will go towards the bridge. That'll go towards the engineering and then the next steps of the bridge, actually starting to put it in. Now we'll fund the bridge, but we're actually putting, it's just John and I that are developing. So we're saying we're putting our money where our mouth is. We'll start getting the financial, everything engineered and drawn up and get the bridge ready to go in. And then we'll put it in. And so our development agreement will kind of spell that out. That was very unlawyer-like of me. The development agreement will be very spelled out. And also for each building permit would be $1,000 per home for each building permit as well. So there'd be a developer cost and a contractor cost going towards the bridge. So it wouldn't be like an impact fee. It's actually just a fee that goes to pay for the bridge.
Dedicated to the bridge.
Correct.
For the bridge.
And we'll get all that verbiage corrected with how you guys need it, how the lawyers need it. How Sean needs it. So whatever you guys need, we'll make that work. And obviously with us, with how extensive our master development is for putting that whole piece together. That's why it's taking us just a little bit to make sure we get everything done and organized and figured out. So kind of a real quick recap, we're looking for permission for John to move forward. And I, as the landowner going east, agreeing that we will work to go east, finish off that emergency access road.
So you just, really the request is to let John go east on your access rather than require another one out west.
Correct. He's got to go almost 3 miles to go out west.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How many lots have you got 21?
21.
So what's the status of that?
They're about ready. And all we're doing to finish up the electrical and it's hardscaping from there on out. So everything else is in.
So where are we with planning on that, Rick or Charlie?
As far as phase one goes, I think he's got his approval on that. Phases 2 and 3, it really comes down to what we're doing for emergency egress.
Okay,
Those are being held up right now.
okay, so this is just phase one.
We just want to finish phase 1 and we can worry about phase 2 and 3 as more progress goes, but we just want to get finished with phase 1. This kind of got drawn upon us halfway through. And there was something that came up in the county, we were like, hold on, you guys gotta stop, we need to do this, and the more we looked at it, it was causing heartburn, just because it's just a lot of money for nothing that's gonna be used, so when, Litchfield starts to develop this, they can move that road, they're gonna want it developed how they want it, and so for us, it's just a lot of money to be spent on the road, that it's emergency egress only, it's a road that will most likely only be used by me when I feed my cows in the winter. And I don't need it to feed the cows in the winter, so, that was the whole issue, but we thought, well, why don't we just put that money towards what's already gonna be done? And so we took a pass, why are we not just being smart about this and just, making this, put all that money towards the bridge and towards that road there and, that access there, so. Just for these 21 lots, and then it looks in the future, when we do 40, 2 and 3, we'll make sure there's a good plan for the bridge. That future exit. We're just trying to get phase 1 done that we started before this whole egress got put on us.
And before we propose, John and I, either one of us propose for anything else to be built out there, we will have a development agreement in place. That's what we're promising you guys. We're not here, oh, let's get another 30 lots later, we're not here to change our narrative or anything like that. If you'll agree to this, we will gladly not submit anything until we have an agreed upon development agreement.
What's the status of that development agreement, Charlie?
So there's not a formal application for the bigger project
Okay.
that's in right now. The previous application from A2 to A1, I think it was. Yeah, that's right.
Are you doing acre lots? What size lots?
We're gonna do a mix of everything. On the far west side, we're gonna start with some probably halves,
Halves.
maybe some 3/4. Nothing too tiny. We don't wanna go really small right there. We kind of wanna, that'll be kind of the outskirts and then blend in
Got it.
and get smaller as we go.
We'll probably see some lot averaging out there.
Yeah.
The general plan says 3rd acre or better out in this area here. Right down in this area, just to the west of 7,500, it says mixed housing. So that really is kind of up in the air for you guys to decide what mixed housing is. As you can tell, just
East or west?
east, sorry. East.
Yeah, you said west, but you're
Sorry.
pointing east.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of residential here on the west side of 7,500, and then it goes into industrial, basically,
Okay,
where the Litchfield property is out here. As we were looking at this and working with both developers, it makes a lot of sense to spend the money that would otherwise go to the west along this orange line, which that is about 3 miles. It makes a lot more sense to take it to the 2 miles in this direction. But there's kind of this limbo where if the developer gets all the homes in, whether it's John or any other developer, and they're no longer on the hook, how do we make sure we get the finances that we need to actually get the bridge and get 1,600 in? So I like the idea of the 5,000 per lot by development agreement and 1,000 per lot when you go to plat. I think when you go to build, I think that's a great idea. So file a subdivision plat, bring in 5,000 a lot. And then every building permit brings in 1,000 in addition to whatever other impact fees they're gonna be doing. And that's just a voluntary contribution. That means the developer really puts money in the game. But if we never build a bridge, we're approving more homes at the end of a essentially dead end road where we do have emergency egress when the train is parked there.
okay. So how do we guarantee that, good afternoon,
Sorry, you're doing a bad.
how do we guarantee that bridge will go in before we put additional homes out there on basically agricultural road for emergency? So how do we do that? Because that's a part that concerns me.
Right, if you're looking for a guarantee, you don't do any approvals. But if you're looking for maybe a middle ground, maybe it's you do some approvals, you take in the money, you create an account, start building a little bit of escrow towards building.
Charlie, is that purple center intended to be the bridge location?
Yeah, sorry.
Village node?
I didn't realize it's supposed to be centered, but yeah, pretend like that's right there over the river. So
Okay.
that's supposed to be where the bridge is on 1,600.
Okay.
So Charlie, want to show, is the emergency egress going east, coming along that blue line and then heading up on the green
Mhm.
line and over
Essentially.
until the bridge is built?
Now, I wouldn't have any concerns about this proposal at all if the railroad didn't
Yeah.
park trains there.
Right.
Does the railroad, are they aware of that emergency egress and your guys' intention to utilize that for such?
I doubt it.
We try not to communicate with the railroad.
Okay.
I'll be
I
honest.
mean, but what do we do now with the homes that are there now? That's the issue, like it's there's no way out. If that's the case, if we're worried about that, then we say, well, we were okay with 30 homes being, trapped, I guess, but we draw at 31, or, is that the?
Sorry, that question was not asked as a trap. That's not where I was going with that. I just know that the minute improvements are made that direction, pointing at that, the railroad might react. I'll just leave it at that.
They're not-
Who knows what the railroad's gonna do?
We know they're not easy to deal with.
Yeah, we do know that.
That's a fair statement.
My thought is if they do react, we just make sure it's clear this is an emergency situation, which I'm sure would be used as that right now. If you can actually get a vehicle down any one of these roads, there was a wildfire or an earthquake or some train derailed, and there is a way to get out over here. That's the way that we would use it anyway.
So Gary, what's a possibility of the railroad taking issue with that and closing it off? Can they, is it our dirt? Whose dirt is it?
Well, the crossing is there and it's
Yeah.
established and it's been there. The problem is their stance is the minute you increase traffic by more than 20%, I'm
Right.
looking at Charlie, does that sound right?
Yeah, something like that.
20%, they see it as a new crossing.
They see it as a new crossing?
Yeah, which triggers that it needs to go vertical.
And they've kind
Or
of,
we have to
Is that a
take
one-time
crossing
use or
out.
is that
We
a
have to eliminate
cumulative
two
use?
crossings,
Two cross, so.
two or more.
It's
At
emergency,
least.
it'd be a one-time use, right? Like, we're talking, one-time use over, it's not like people are gonna go down that road and that's it's not like you would look forward to going over that crossing.
I completely understand, John, and I'm not pushing back against you. The problem is, I don't know that they're going to necessarily see it from that perspective. And the reason I say that is, the reason this becomes an issue is the railroad says you either go vertical over it or you eliminate two established crossings in order for that crossing to be approved.
Right.
We have 0 crossings we can eliminate.
We can't take out any.
So that means then your only option is to go vertical. And I know we've kind of talked about that on 83,
Yeah,
right? So
83.
you're very familiar with what that entails, right?
Mhm.
Which, again, listen, I'm not trying to be a stumbling block here. That's not where I'm
Well,
going.
going
I just-
vertical is gonna be more expensive.
It
than putting in
gets,
the bridge over.
yeah, and
4 or 5 times.
especially in that
It's
location.
the most expensive bridge.
Cause that ground is significantly lower than the railroad track right there, and
Yeah.
so you're gonna be chasing grade for quite a ways.
Yeah, you didn't have a long bridge.
Yeah. So,
Well, once we put the bridge in, I think that would take that away from the railroad's
Yeah.
concerns if we're creating another access.
Well, I think really that becomes the question is that in order for us not to run into a railroad situation, which I've dealt enough with the railroad, we'll have a situation at some point. Just a matter of when, depends on how many homes are built out there. So how do we have and this kind of goes to Charlie and Rick, how do we have an assurance that that bridge will go in prior to, or at the time that we have X number of single family homes or whatever out there, people living there, that we don't run into a conflict with UP's. How do we do that?
That's a tricky situation. I mean, that's why we just limited approval of phase 1 at the present time for those lots until that access was addressed. And that's why we kind of have it on pause right now because of that. And
Which is why we're only going after phase 1 right now. We're not doing the phase 2
So
until. we have
you're
that.
21 lots, how many are you?
None right now.
So none now?
We won't, I
Right.
won't present any lots till we have a development agreement fully in place, which will address the bridge and solve the issue of when are we putting the bridge in? So I know this doesn't answer the question exactly, but like, I don't have the property under contract and hoping to buy it. I mean, we've already bought it. So we're in this almost $10 million of acquisition of the ground so far. We're not going anywhere. I got 10 million reasons to stay, to build a $2 million bridge, we're not gonna slit our own throat and not build a $2 million bridge. 2.2, I think, to be what our last bids were. But once we get the development agreement, then we're gonna start dumping a ton of more money because we gotta start putting lift stations in, we're gonna do some of the preload pump stations for right now. But we got, once we push go, we're gonna go and not stop. And that's why we want to have the development agreement 100% in place for the entire project. So we can start on 7,500 and start at the bridge. So we want to start in both locations and then come together. So I don't know if that helps or not, but the fact that we're pregnant with $10 million, we're not going anywhere. And I know John and they've, this is just their first phase. They still have to do all the other phases. So we have a lot of reason to work together and still continue to make this happen. I know that doesn't exactly help you, but
I think it paints the risk assessment picture though.
yeah.
Because I don't know that we have any guarantees, but I think we've got pretty good odds when it comes to risk assessment. if we've got a road that is built all the way down here, sorry, I turned this purple line on, this is the West Davis or West Weaver corridor. If we have a road that's built all the way down here and pretty much stubbed to the river, we have a right of way on this side that is about, I think it's 16 or maybe 20 feet wide. And so really, it's just a matter of getting over the river there. So let's say, whatever happens here, we don't get a bridge that materializes. At some point in time, the risk does fall to the county to figure out how do we put some kind of an egress there? How do we build that bridge?
Yeah.
And maybe it's creating a special assessment area, special impact area. And there's a few other ways that we can potentially do it. But end of the day, it's chicken and egg. If the developer doesn't develop, there's not money to build a bridge. If there's not a bridge, are we gonna let the developer develop? You know, which one comes first? I'm not entirely certain in this particular case.
Well, this new information, the 20% on the railroad. I don't want to get that concerns me. That didn't come up in our meeting, this 20% railroad discussion. And the fact that you've got 21, and there's 30 houses out there, it's pretty easy math. That's more than 20%.
That's what we're asking is, it's an emergency, because you're not increasing any traffic over that unless there's an emergency, which you're gonna be doing anyways. Right now, there's, what, 4 people that cross that bridge. You know, me, Hancock's, Meekins, yeah. Actually, I think there's only 3 landowners. He's now the landowner of Meekins, but you have 3 people. So you see, there's a emergency right now. That's the most logical route to go, right? To get people across right now. So no matter what, you're gonna be increasing that in emergency, no matter what. There's only 3 people that go across that crossing, frequently. That goes across right now. So, no matter what, you're facing that. It's just you're not adding traffic at all to that crossing. We're not putting this in as a egress road out, where it's an emergency egress still. So it's not gonna be a public road where, tons of people are gonna be going in and out of that.
I get
Out of
that.
that crossing.
I don't speak railroadese, so that's my problem.
So you're gonna have, and that's the problem that you're worried about. No matter what, it's only an emergency situation that we're using that crossing. And no matter what, you're in emergency, what you do with the existing homes there, you're gonna get them out somehow, right?
Well, we do need the development agreement
Mhm.
going forward.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, to me, that's the key to it. Lay out the structure in terms of how's our best path forward to get that bridge in.
Yeah.
With limit the risk to the county as much as possible. So. Okay, Commissioner Bowles, questions or comments? Commissioner Harvey?
No, just the 20%. This is a tough thing. I wish that bridge were in.
Me too.
You got 2 months.
Toll road.
Yep, hey, that'd be.
Yeah, we like toll roads.
So
So are
reason
you
we
okay
can't do
with
that?
the emergency?
Yeah.
Access? And that's really what you're asking for now, to let John go east rather than
East
west.
instead of going.
Yeah, oh,
west, yes.
So, yeah, it makes no sense to go west. I mean, I think a lot of that's gonna be industrial in the future. We don't know how much in the future it's gonna be, but somewhat. So, but I think, it's important we need to come up with a solution before you start looking at anything.
100%, which that's what we're saying. We'll
I
have a
think,
development agreement in place
Yeah.
for phases 2. We're not worried about, we just don't want to spend that kind of money on something that's just not in use, that's not gonna be used. It just doesn't make sense. And so that's why we say, let's just, and Charlie's even said multiple times, like, it's just the way that it's written, it never came up with this situation. That's why we have to go through, we have to have this session so we can use our heads and talk about it. And so this is actually what makes sense.
Yeah.
Basically, the
okay,
development agreement would need to essentially waive a certain parts of the code that says limited to 30. Your development has to be limited to 30 homes, maximum on the dead end road. We'd have to waive that and rewrite those rules through a development agreement, basically.
right.
I don't know how you guys feel about this as far as funding goes, but I would feel pretty comfortable about this if 100% of whatever the cost estimate is to build a 3-mile road to the west was dedicated for the bridge only. And then the rest of that egress is constructed using other funds. That way we've got a few $100,000 already going towards a bridge that if this all falls out, the bottom falls out of all of this, that at least gives the county a little bit of slush money to fund that bridge moving forward.
Yeah, so on your 21 lots, have you got an impact fee or a fee set up for
Not
for
yet.
either going west or east?
No, not yet.
Okay,
No, we need to, we've been trying, so back in 21, things were moving a lot faster, right? The
Yeah.
real estate was hot and whatnot, so with flagship and everything, it looked like these bridges were going in quick, so we were told, hold off on, you don't need to worry about this road, because it looks like this is gonna, these 3 bridges are gonna be going in, because everybody was pretty hot, real estate was moving like crazy. And so we were told to hold off on that. So we didn't, and so we've kind of gone through the loop a few times, and then, things slowed way down, and then it was like, well, now you gotta go back to this. I was like, oh, we were kind of already we've had multiple conversations, right, on how this would look, and what our impact would be. So now we're just trying to do what makes the most sense.
then, well, I like Charlie's idea, actually. If you're gonna get off the hook for going west, then that, dollar amount should go east to that bridge.
I'm with
I
that.
like that.
You okay?
Mhm.
I mean, if not, you're gonna have to put it in, it's not gonna be cheap to go west. I just assume put that money somewhere where it makes sense, which is east on that bridge.
The reality of it is, if he did change plans and go west, he's still gonna have that same 20% increase
Yeah.
issue with the railroad on that crossing on the west
Mhm.
as he would with this one. So,
You will.
so either way, you're fighting that.
The
that
solution's
challenge.
the bridge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. The solution's the bridge. So the quicker we can get that bridge built,
Yeah.
better for everybody in this room. So that's why I would suggest Charlie and Rick that we look at that.
Development agreement.
You okay?
Yeah, that's barely. But I want to say right now too, I'm not warm, I'm just barely over warm on this. Now that because of that 20%, it's going from a feeling. But the next time a subdivision comes out there without that bridge being in, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a no. So I've heard it too long, with all those people in Marriott Slaterville stuck between 12th Street. I mean, I hear it all the time. And I'm tired of calling that railroad. But I call them all the time. So,
Well, you could go pull the engineer out of the,
yeah.
get that to Bronco.
So I'm anxious for you. And I do have absolutely full support on that bridge. I just realized it's a tough nut, but I hope it ends up being a really good thing for you in a lot of ways. I don't mind the idea of a toll.
Okay, sounds like you got a deal with those agreements.
We'll get 'em-
All right.
we'll get 'em worked out.
So Charlie and Rick are in their ballpark, work with those guys. Get her done.
Good.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to saunter till 12.
You got a motion? All those in favor, aye. Thanks very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Appreciate it. Hey, just, quick on the sewer. Century River called and said that it's,
Say that again?
Century River called and said that sewer and those lines,
Yeah.
the cameras, they should be done here by the end of this week.
Oh, okay.
Great.
That'd be really good. to
That's
have that
really
done.
good.
So they're gonna have the study done at the end of the week?
They should have, they said they took them a little bit longer than they thought. They still should have it done by the end of the week.
Oh, good. So did they camera it? What'd they do?
Yeah, the camera, they ran a few inches, it was way worse up there, towards Pinnacle and all that, is where it was the worst. I had a hard time getting through it. But now that they're, it's back in,
Well,
it should go quick.
Yeah, we need to find out what's causing the,
Exactly.
because, I'm not ready to spend all the county ARPA funds on that, where, you got 3 or 4 major users that need to ante up.
That's right.
So, we're servicing that for 3 or 4 companies that have,
Well, one of those users we found out isn't paying either.
yeah,
They're way behind. So that's one thing
What?
we're gonna go on, so,
yeah.
yeah.
So we gotta get our act together on
Yeah.
that, John.
Yeah, we will. So anyways, I'll let you know. I just let you know that's what they called and told me. And
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that report. and then
Yes,
we'll
me
go
too.
From there.
Ken, thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you. All righty. So your aerospace people coming in asking us for another 25 grand.
They're gonna do it on Zoom.
Or
I told him though. I told him, hey, look, Don't just ask me, this is we're a team here on this one.
Did you tell him you're okay with it, or?
No, I said, I said, what I told him, I said, I'm not gonna approve of a thing like that. That's gonna be a decision all three of us would make.
Well, I kind of told him I wasn't.
You were gonna talk to Bob.
Bob's all over it. But I think
All over
he's on their board.
I don't know that he's all over it.
Well, he hit me up about making the contribution.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. Better mute that.
Hi, this is Aaron calling in for the 12:30 meeting.
Okay, we're back in session. I'd entertain a motion to cease dishonor.
Cease dishonor motion.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
We're now back in session. We're at our 12:30 agenda item, which is discussion regarding the Utah Aerospace and Defense Association update. Robert Carroll, Aaron Starks, Nicole Hopkins, and I believe that Aaron's online. Aaron, do you want to go ahead? Since you're not here with us, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner. Good to be with the team. Appreciate it. I'll be representing the Aerospace and Defense Association alone today.
Great.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to just continue a conversation that I've been having with the commission regarding a partnership for aerospace and defense there in Weber County. As you're all very much aware, aerospace accounts for a sizable portion of your economy. You're tangentially connected to a lot of the defense operations, investments, and manufacturing efforts there. So talking with Commissioner Harvey, who serves with me on the Utah Defense Alliance Board, we're very interested in striking more of a formal partnership where industry can partner with the county to enhance its efforts regarding economic investment, foreign investment, manufacturing investment, so that we can further stimulate the economy and grow it. And so with that, I would just tee up the topic and maybe turn it back over to you and open it up for conversation.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey, I know you've had discussions in the past.
Well, yeah, we talked a little bit about this. This is a group of people who are actively business owners and businesses that are all active in trying to move forward the aerospace industry and recruitment of different businesses. In my mind, it's kind of like, but it's not the Catalyst Campus think tank, but it's moving businesses that would subcontract with military type things. Aaron, you're probably better suited to explain exactly what this does.
Yeah, the Utah Aerospace and Defense Association was founded in partnership with Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and the governor's office, recognizing that this industry is about 20% of the state's economic activity when you include our military installations, the NSA, Hill Air Force Base, the testing sites, Camp Williams, etc. And so this was an effort to convene, promote, and advocate for this industry. And we believe that we believe that we already have the pieces in place between our academic institutions, counties, municipalities, and then obviously industry. The state is well positioned to compete nationally and even globally for larger contracts, which all, of course, would bring more money into the state and help us grow. When we talk about tech, we often think of enterprise software, what Silicon Slopes has been able to do, and to their credit, they've done it very well. But I believe the future of the state's economy is aerospace and defense, cyber intelligence, space exploration, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, et cetera. And so what we'd like to do is, we'd appreciate some financial support from the county. We feel like this is a great investment on the county's behalf to come in to be more of a formal member and partner of this organization. You'd be joining Davis County, Box Elder County, who have already made investments into the organization, who are partners with us. But what we want to do is we want to be able to position Weber County as a destination for these companies to grow. And I know that you're making investments as it is right now on the west side of the county, west of Ogden. They're redeveloping, revitalizing some of those commercial real estate portfolios that the city has long had. We want to help showcase that. We want to be able to position the county as a great place for companies near to locate, given its proximity to Hill Air Force Base and other areas. And so we had hoped to have this meeting in person, but appreciate you guys squeezing us in, knowing you're busy. But we'd really like to develop more of a strategic plan so that we can work in partnership with the commission on this.
Good. So, Aaron, just as a reminder, Davis came in. You said that they've both, Davis and Box Elder County, both contributed. Davis, was it 25,000?
Davis was 25,000. Box Elder was 10,000. I would just, more important than the financial contribution, obviously, we, no margin, no mission. We absolutely need money. But first and foremost is just having a great committed partner in Weber County. Second to that would be the financial commitment. So, I would just kind of leave that up to you guys. Whatever you're able to commit to would be great. Jim, you were on at the Board of Governors meeting. We'd like to give Weber County a permanent position on the board, working in partnership with our team. That way it formalizes it a little more publicly and allows you to, just greater exposure with companies. And so, yes, between 10 and 25 would be a wonderful contribution that would do a lot for us.
And you're already being funded mostly by the state of Utah, isn't that correct?
We're half of our funding comes from the state. My number one commitment and goal is that every public dollar invested in our organization is matched 1-to-1 with the private sector. And that's because we want to be hungry. We don't want to be reliant on the state, and industry needs to step up and be a true public-private partnership. And so this year, with the state appropriation from the legislature, we will be 1-to-1.
Good. That's
Can I ask a
encouraging.
question?
Yeah, sure.
Aaron, this is Stephanie Russell, Economic Development Director. Part of the membership package, does that include business recruitment, or is it mainly focused on expansion? What would be the benefit for the county, just from an association perspective?
Yeah, great question. Nice to meet you, Stephanie. The way that membership works is, once we get commitment, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have our team come and sit down with your team, Stephanie, and even spend a couple of hours where we can drive the county and really.
Do we lose you there, Aaron?
Yeah, I think so.
He's frozen, could be just.
Oh, we lost you for a second, Aaron.
You back, Aaron? Okay.
I never lost you. How's that? That's
Yeah,
commitment.
we totally lost you, like right when you started answering the question.
Okay. No worries. Thank you for letting me know. What I'd like to do, Stephanie, is in terms of this membership, and I hate to look at it as a membership because we're not a chamber of commerce, right? We're growing the world's premier ecosystem for aerospace, defense, and security companies, and everyone has a role to play in that. And so I'd like to get our team, up to Weber County to sit down with your team and really understand what your vision is for this industry. As you're leading out on all things economic development, it would be helpful if we understood what direction you're already going and what efforts you're making to support industry as it is. And then from there, develop a strategic plan, some objectives, some goals, and say, okay, over the next 12 months, what is most important for the county in terms of this industry? Is it expansion? Is it retaining current companies, or is it job creation? Whatever that is. Where we come in is we want to be able to promote the county as a destination for aerospace and defense companies. And so, everything from site selection to commercial real estate, analysis, being able to share with prospective companies what's available there. But then we're also plugged into the companies already in Weber County. I mean, we're working with several companies in your community. We want to help them grow as well. And so from an economic development standpoint, there's a lot of synergy and a lot of interconnectivity there.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's helpful.
So Aaron, so you bring up, it sounds like what your vision is economic development. And I think you're probably aware that 2 years ago, actually close to 3, we set up the Northern Utah Economic Alliance with Davis County. Chris Royball's our chair of that. Bob Davis and I actually are the chairs of that.
Bob Stevenson.
Bob Stevenson. Yeah, Bob Stevenson. So it appears that we might have a conflict. I mean, we put substantial amount of money, both the EDC Utah, our county money that we put in every year, the state money. Are we creating a conflict here? Because, Chris and Stephanie and the Davis crew puts a lot of time in doing just what you talked about. How do we, I don't like duplication, and I especially don't like duplication if we're going to be stepping on each other's toes. We've already headed down the path with Northern Utah, and I don't think Bob Stevenson would agree that we're going to give that up, for the amount of money that we put into it so far, and we've seen some pretty good success. So tell us how we don't have a conflict, or how you can. And I guess my first question is, if the first person you should probably be talking to is Chris Royball.
So I've thank you, Gage, and we certainly don't want to duplicate efforts at all. We want to maximize those taxpayer dollars and man hours. I've had several conversations with Chris. He's a partner in this, and familiar with the model and his impact and contribution there to Northern Utah's economy. There really isn't a duplication of effort because Chris is focused on general economic development. We're focused on growing industry. And so we're working hand in hand with companies, helping them access capital, working on workforce development solutions with Weber State, with Ogden Weber Technical College. And so what we're doing is more hands-on with industry, helping companies. And so we aren't going to be focusing on the site selection analysis like you guys will in partnership with his team. And what we do is we plug in. So here's a good example of how this would work. Joby Aviation, a $2 billion company is interested in exploring Utah as an alternative to California for its manufacturing. We're in conversation with them as the voice for industry. Helping participate in that is EDC Utah with the site selection analysis and recruitment, the governor's office with some of the tax incentives, and then we would like to bring in Weber County to say, okay, tell us what the county is doing as we look at potential sites. And I would assume Chris would represent the county in that scenario, but we would represent industry, Chris would represent the county or the geography, and Go Utah and EDC Utah would talk about more of the tactical approach regarding site selection and tax incentives.
Okay, well, I think Joby's already moved out of the state from what we've
Well,
been told.
Yeah, and that's just an example, but
We keep hearing they're here, but we've also heard that they're going to Texas or somewhere else, so I don't think Joby's a good company to say that we're gonna get, because I don't think that's gonna be factual, unless you
Well,
know
and
something 24 hours.
yeah, and I wasn't being literal. I was just providing an example for context. They're definitely not
Oh.
coming to Utah. We lost that.
Yeah.
But that's how we all play in this ecosystem together as partners.
Okay, well, I would like to have that discussion before I'm willing to move forward. Make sure that Chris understands and,
We can set a meeting with Chris.
yeah, so I would suggest that you, Stephanie, and Chris have a conversation before I'm ready to move forward.
I think
With-
that's the
with
best
any
first
type of-
step.
Yeah,
Okay,
but I just want to make sure that we're not creating an opportunity for conflict and duplication here, Aaron.
Okay, and that makes total sense, and I appreciate that. That's wise, and yeah, happy to we ongoing conversation with Chris as it is now. So Stephanie, happy to pull you into that, and we get clear on the approach for Weber County and how we can be helpful.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
get with Chris. We can set up a meeting.
Set that up.
Yep.
Yeah. We owe that to Chris.
Sure.
Um, Before we were said, hey, we've hired on somebody new, and so I just want that clearly understood. If in fact we decide to fund any part of that. And then how do you, and I haven't heard a lot about this through the MIDA, I sit on the MIDA board. Are you working with MIDA and all and our folks out there?
We are, in fact, we're in the process of onboarding MIDA. So, MIDA itself wants to maintain a low profile, as you know, in the state, but all of these wonderful
Right.
economic development projects they're engaged in with Mayflower and the Westgate, we absolutely are promoting that to industry, each of those projects, because we want to grow those. Those are great assets to the industry. And so we are working in partnership with MIDA. And just for some more context here, we've been a very fragmented industry for a lot of years. You've got UDA, you have MIDA, you've got UAMI doing a little bit. You've got Northern Utah Economic Alliance. And so it's who really owns aerospace and defense. This is what Speaker Wilson, President Adams, and the governor have mandated, that we have one centralized organization coordinating efforts, convening the players, and helping provide direction and leadership. And so that's what we're tasked to do. And so, UDA, tremendous organization. They're providing a really valuable service, advocating for our military installations. We want to be able to help promote that work as it relates to anything industry focused. MIDA, as it's developing industry assets through its economic development projects, we want to be able to match make what they're doing with industry itself so that the projects themselves can flourish. But we're the convening body, the industry association, speaking on behalf of companies. And so that's kind of how all of this is working.
Good.
He's done a wonderful job, Commissioners. Aaron's done a really wonderful job. But I can support your ideas with regards to having Stephanie and Chris there. I think it's another good step towards that. And then we'll just be a little more careful, and Aaron, I think, more careful, but as we use a business approach to this.
Sure.
I think that's good. I personally appreciate what you're doing. I do see value in what you're up to, what you're about. And I've been very impressed with the players that you have on the table there. So it's really a good organization. I sit on the UDA with Aaron now, so.
The what?
The Utah Defense Alliance.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, the Defense Alliance. Got it. Okay. All right, good to hear. Commissioner Bolos, questions or
No,
comments?
I like that direction.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, if you do that, get with Stephanie and then you may even want to attend one of our board meetings.
That'd be great.
We have Weber State's there, all the players you mentioned, including the private sector, Weber State, the Tech College, is actively involved with that. And it might be good that you come and at least reach out. I think we have what do we have?
It's, I'll send,
18
yeah,
18 board members or so.
yeah, and I'll send you the information on that meeting too.
And I've sent, Aaron, I've sent your contact information to Stephanie, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You guys can
I'll
get-
reach out.
appreciate it. Thanks,
Hey.
Aaron.
Hey, thank you. Have a great day. Looking forward to it, Stephanie.
Thanks,
Right.
thanks very
Thank
much for
you.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. But I just want to make sure that we don't have any cross communication there.
That thought went through my mind too. Sure.
It's just,
Yeah, that went right through my mind. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get some
Yeah.
clarification.
and I know if we talk to Chris,
Yeah, I'll
he'll,
go with Chris. Yeah. and we'll-
yeah,
If this
he'll
can be,
understand.
if this can be a valuable tool, but
Yeah,
if it's just gonna sit in the tool chest, no. But if it's something we can use,
that's exactly, I look, it's like that saw that I bought.
right,
That's a
beautiful.
use,
That's a beautiful saw.
you ought to see the stack of wood I cut with that. You'd be impressed.
I would be. Trust me, I really would be.
No, that's amazing. I
Yeah,
made
I'll
myself.
reach out and get a meeting scheduled with.
Thank
us.
you. All right, let's go now to our 1 o'clock discussion regarding Nilson Land Development and Bureau Land Drains. Is Tucker coming up?
Yeah, they should.
Gary Meyer, Sean Wilkinson, Brian Bayless, Lacey Richards, and Steve Burton will be with us shortly. So we're gonna be back with you once they get here.
No one is here yet.
All right, we're gonna go get ahead and get started on our 1 PM discussion regarding Nilson Land Development and Bureau Land Range. Tucker, Gary, Sean, Steve Burton's with us. Brian Bayless and Lacey Richards are not. Sean Wilkinson's here along. There they are. Okay, just in a nick of time. You must have been reading my mind.
You're just about to start without you.
About to start with that.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here, you're good.
Like I said, when you two.
Yeah. Gotta keep you under control, Steve. You're good.
Brian coming? Brian is coming.
Yeah.
All right, so Gary, you want to start this?
Sure. So commissioners, about a year ago, we actually came to you guys literally regarding this same type of agreement. This was on a property, that there's some Bureau of Reclamation land drains. That as the developments go in, they have to cross these Bureau of Reclamation land drains.
This is what we talked about last year.
Yeah, do you remember that one?
I do.
And so essentially, what we did, and I brought a copy of the previous agreement, but that we can refer to, but we had the developers put in escrow some amounts of money to repair those crossings if in the future anything settles and any damage occurs to those crossings. And then we had a 10% contingency on it as well, because we knew that by putting it in escrow now, if it's as much as 10 years down the road, there might be some inflated construction costs to repair any damage that occurs. So literally that's where we're at. JDC Ranches is coming in, they're getting ready to move forward. And they're approaching us with the same agreement with Bureau of Reclamation. My recommendation is that we do the same thing where we have them give us an estimate of cost for what it would cost to replace those lines, and then that is put in escrow for 5 to 10 years or whatever number we deem necessary.
Well, I thought that's what we did last year with JDC.
It was a different development to the north, not JDC, but it was an entirely different.
Remember that part?
It was it was owned by Brad Brown. Do you remember that, Commissioner Harvey? And so, it's the same field, just the other end. JDC is on the south end of that field, where the other one was on the north.
I forgot.
edge.
I thought it was your development.
Well, and these guys ironically now own that development as well too, right? And so you now have that development agreement, and then this would be a secondary one. Entirely different, but the same purpose, the same concern.
Yep.
And it's not me being a jerk, but I just worry that the minute you expose those lines or get anywhere close to them, or any new construction happens, material can settle. And so I just ask for assurance that we're made whole. If should anything happen, we have to get in there and do anything.
So we haven't been able to find a copy of the one that you said.
You haven't? Why not?
I don't know, that's all, but I looked a lot of places, I was one of copies, yeah.
I sure do. In fact, this is not the signed copy, Lacey, but I'm happy to give this to you. There towards this, it's probably the last or the second to last page. Will show the escrow amount that we had them put in place, and it was 2 crossings that they had. It was roughly about, I think it was 9,000 and change for one. The other was about 10 or 11,000 and change for the other, and then with the 10% contingency, we had them. I think we were around 22,000 is basically what it was. And I believe the agreement was stated for 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah,
Okay, so we would just.
Bond or cash?
at an escrow, just an escrow put in place.
An actual cash escrow.
Yeah.
Is there any way, so I guess just a couple of questions, and I know you guys already have had this conversation, so if this is the route we decide to go.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. Okay. We've got to get going on JDC,
Sure.
but just for my edification or whatever, number one, is there any way for us to do a bond, Gary? Because it's gonna be much easier for us just to write a check to our bond company and say, hey, in 10 years this expires, we're checking all the boxes on our obligations. And I don't want to have to think about it ever again and come back and have it released. I know that may not be typical. You guys probably like the cash escrow, which we're used to providing, but in this instance where it is unique. I was just wondering.
Time.
And
For
it's
us
a
all
long
to remember
time.
that it's there.
Yeah, I just wonder.
No, I
if
get it.
there's a way for us just to write a whatever $1,000 check or whatever $2,000 check, and then it's just part of the cost, and you guys have the surety you need. We checked this, we satisfied the county's concerns.
Sure. I think we did the cash escrow purely for simplicity's sake, right? Because then the cash is there if we ever need it. It's easy to get a hold of, get it, and we don't have to worry about calling it a bond or anything that. And who knows where I certainly am not implying anything with this statement, Brian, but who knows where you guys will be 10 years down the
Well,
road.
that's fair. I
Right.
understand.
And so it's not a jab at anybody other than it's just simpler and easier for the cash bond to be. Sorry, the cash escrow to be there in place. Now, obviously, in 10 years, right? Ideally, we don't even touch it, right? Ideally, everything goes through, there's no issues. You guys send us a note 10 years from now, release the escrow, not an issue.
How does the county currently do bonding or assurances? Do they allow a bond or is it all cash escrows?
Usually we do.
Cash unless it's over $1 million, and then we allow a letter of credit,
Okay,
potentially, if it meets all the criteria. But
Okay.
yeah, typically just cash escrow.
so then asking for a bond is a big stretch for us because you guys don't even really allow that right now.
Correct.
We could do a letter of credit though.
If the cost is over $1 million.
Oh, it has to, so is that our,
Yeah, and that's in ordinance, and that has to be
Okay.
approved by John Bond.
okay,
Yeah, there's a little bit of a process.
got it.
I get it's better to have cash, in the bank. I guess I'm just looking for a little bit of flexibility because in 10 years, somebody's gonna get a notice. If they get a notice, they're just gonna keep paying on the escrow. It's gonna, cash is gonna be sitting there. I guess I would like to have a sunset where it's like, oh, even if it were a letter of credit, and I guess maybe where I feel like it's not, in that it's a vehicle that the county currently uses, although well below the amount that Sean was just talking about. To me, it just seemed like this is a unique situation. I've probably signed 30 of these applications and escrows for the Bureau of Reclamation in my career, and this is the only time I've had this conversation right here, which is the county's being cautious and not potentially sticking the county residents with this. But again, I mean, West Haven, West Point, Plain City, I mean, we do these all the time.
Yeah.
And this is the first time, and we have Bonavista Vista and Pineview that signed the application, no problems. So this is I guess in my mind, this is a bit of a unique situation that the county's
Totally
asking
is.
for. And we want to make sure we're checking the box for you guys.
Yeah.
But if there's any flexibility on your end to give us that letter of credit, we would seriously appreciate it.
Well, and it probably came down to me pushing this issue, Brian. I'll be honest on this one. This one's on me because
Yeah,
whenever anything sizable comes up that I have to come approach commissioners for money to repair,
yeah,
it's never a comfortable conversation,
Right,
right? And
right.
so really the ones benefiting from this is the developer. My thought was, even just to wrap this up into however many lots you guys are doing, it's a fairly minimal cost to add into, how many lots do you guys even have in JDC? What's the number up to right now?
well, we're at 725 with just JDC itself.
Yeah, so if you split that cost evenly across 725 lots, that's pretty minimal increase in the cost of the lot. And then it's, there for your recovery later on, 10 years down the road, right? And so, yes, I know it is unique. It is a special situation, but, on the other hand, should something happen and I don't have anything there to cover me on the repair of this, right? I'm kind of left holding the bag.
No, and I'm not pushing back at all against that. Hopefully you don't feel
Yeah.
that that's.
No,
what-
totally.
My push or my request, I guess, would just be to do the letter of credit versus the bond. The letter of credit versus the cash escrow. That way it's not just our 20,000+, because this is the first application we're walking in with, but we will have a lot of others where we're crossing this drain line, and we want the drain line to stay in place. We want it to continue to lower the groundwater out there.
Yeah.
Very good thing in totality, the totality of the project, but it's like, this is the first of probably 20 or 30 that we'll be coming in and talking to you about on the sewer with the county. So our hope is that we can just, again, it's, $20,000 here and there is not that big of a deal when you spread over that number of units, but when you look at, $2 million here and $5 million, there's some big costs, I guess, $5 million are probably an extreme, but the park's probably about $4.5 million. All of those open spaces, the trail maintenance, I mean, it's all in the big picture. We're just trying to lower our costs where it makes the most sense. And to the extent that it's possible, not having 20 grand, this application sitting in the bank and another 20 the next time and 20 the next time and 20 the next time. It'd be great if we could do that letter of credit. I think that would help.
So the previous developer on this that did these agreements with whatever it was called before, Weaver Vista or now we'll call it the Grove.
Sure.
So has that cash been put up?
Oh, it wasn't yet. It was, that was the agreement that at time of subdivision it would, so it hasn't been yet. So when you guys, before you record, will require that for the
Well,
Grove.
that's nice to know now. Now we have to come up with that money.
That should be in my first review. I thought it was, but I double check.
So you weren't aware of that then?
No?
I'll double check, because I thought I put it in there.
And I guess one last pitch to maybe provide our, I guess, the way that we're looking at this is a year, right? That's typical for these kinds of bonds, surety bonds. A year seems pretty standard, typical across the board to have an obligation here 10 years down the road. I guess I understand the county's concerns, so I'm not pushing back at all against that. It just seems like that's, if something's gonna go wrong because of settling the other issues that you talked about, it's gonna happen within that first year.
Well, and it could even, I mean, I'd be willing to look at shortening the window to probably 5. I don't know, I'd want to go a lot less than 5 though.
Okay.
Brian, just because the nature of groundwater doing what it does and some of the depths of these drains. Yeah, I just have concerns with some of that pipe, especially with some of it being unreinforced concrete, right? That stuff's super, very brittle, very fragile and this challenge is let's say it happens 2 or 3 years down the road that it settles, that a rupture even occurs. It might be another year or 2 before you even see the results of that. Right, and so that's why we picked kind of the number of 10 years to go with before, was it's tough to really see it all, right? And even if we camera it, once the installation's done, you may not see the damage for a short time later until afterwards, so.
Okay, so I guess, again, I think we're totally supportive of this. It would be changing maybe we could allow both. If we do a cash escrow or a letter of credit, and I think that would be the only request that we would make in terms of a tweak to this, and then I think we're ready to.
Is a letter of credit something that you can entertain?
I don't think it is at the present time. We'd have to amend the ordinance to allow for that because it has that $1 million.
Why do we have $1 million on that?
This goes back to a conversation with the treasurer's office with John Bond. We lost out in the Great Recession on several letters of credit where the county just lost the money because the banks went under.
Oh,
So since that time, we put some provisions in place where we got away from the letters of credit. And then we had some larger developers come in with projects that were over $1 million. They worked with us and with John to set that limit, and that's what it's at right now. So it
Well,
was
we
just to
could-
protect
we
the
could-
county.
change, I mean, we could put something in the ordinance to accept letters of credit from banks that we approved. Financial institutions that had certain credit ratings, whatever. So it's just a matter of those, when the banks went bad, none of the majors, none of the top 6 went out.
So
Um,
can I just jump in here? The letter of credit, part of the code that we have right now is talking about guaranteeing the completion of improvements within a subdivision. It doesn't even address a situation
Right.
like this, because this is
Right.
a situation where we are wanting some kind of assurance that the developer putting in those improvements won't damage the Bureau of Reclamation
right.
facilities that we're ultimately responsible for potentially. And so I think we're talking about 2 separate things
I-
here. I don't think this.
And I don't-
I don't think the situation fits within our ordinance.
I don't disagree
all.
with that.
So,
But the issue I have, I mean, I like a cash bond for a year or 2 years, but from the county's perspective and from their perspective, to hold cash for 10 years, who knows who's gonna change here, and
Sure.
to me, it's better just to have it. I mean, I don't know what would be wrong with a bond that's very specific toward that improvement or making sure that we were covered in the event that some damage was taken to that.
Yeah.
And again, you're relying upon the surety to make sure that the bond is written properly to cover it, but to me, it's a lot easier to handle that than put, cash in the bank that somebody has to worry about getting back or passing out, so, that's just me.
Yeah, I'd be interested, and we could explore that a little bit with John and make sure he's comfortable with it.
Yeah, I would make any request like that contingent on the treasurer's approval.
Yeah.
Similar to our ordinance.
Yeah.
And I just make sure that
the companies that are working to issue the bond are reputable.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we have that ability to set which banks, financial institutions we'd accept it from.
Yes.
You know, if it's the Jim Harvey Bank and Trust.
Then it's a
Then you can
no
take that.
go.
That will definitely. Other than that, well, I think, we need to set up a meeting with John Bond. You okay?
Yeah.
I just think there needs to be a smoother process rather than holding that cash and again,
fine.
that's cumbersome for both parties.
Well, and if we do, and doing a bond or letter of credit, I mean, we can make it big enough that it's for all these.
Yeah. And especially if you say you
Right.
got 20 more coming.
Right.
It's just a guess, but yeah, Gage, it'll be a lot.
There's multiple lines and we're crossing.
Yeah, why not just do one bond to cover
All
everything?
of it.
Yeah,
Have it out of our hair and have this done with.
that's right.
How about the county take over the drainage system, looks expand?
I don't-
make it
Yeah,
better.
But thank you for suggesting. That bond just went out of sight.
Serve them better, that's the way to do it.
Can you get West Haven to take over all of our sewer?
Hey, if you wanna go there, 10, 20 years ago, I tried to do that and the county said no, and you can talk to Curtis Christensen about that. Those histories, then I'll be glad to bring that up.
You're the wrong
You
person to
wanna
have in
talk
here for
sewer.
history.
I'll make sure sewer happens.
I got one more request to make. So this is the actual permit that has to be signed and it locks into place letters of credit and all of that stuff. And that's really important. And that's probably about 3 months away from that, or about 3 months away from this being done and sealed and signed. This is just the application to get the Bureau of Reclamation reviewing this.
Okay.
So there's a big gap between what we need signed today, and there's no obligations of letters of credit or bonds or any of that stuff. That will come through this process. I just need the Bureau of Reclamation reviewing this sucker so that we can start construction. So Gary, if there's any way for us to walk out of here today with your signature on that, we can at least get Zeke reviewing it. And regardless of the letter of credit solution, these plans aren't gonna change. Like nothing's gonna be impacted by us. You know, this agreement of this stuff.
This is only an application.
Yeah,
Sure.
this is just the
Not a
application.
permit.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Nick's telling us it's gonna take several months for him to put it through the bureau, but he can't send it to him without a signature, but we can't actually go do any of the work without you approving the plans anyway.
Sure.
The plans and the permit in 3 months or whatever it's gonna take, so.
I'm fine with that. Commissioners, you have any issues with that?
No. Okay. Okay with that? Yeah, sounds like a good to go. Well, Brian, I'd suggest you go start a conversation with John Bond.
Yeah.
Just say we've had this and. Because obviously we're gonna have to look for his approval.
I'm trying to remember if I.
But I think if we could simplify this for both the county and you, I'm willing to do that.
Okay, thank you. And I think we'll probably, who should be kind of coordinate with Gary or Sean or Rick? Who do you want us? Okay,
I think, yeah.
so we'll
Gary.
probably,
Yeah,
we'll
that's
probably
fine.
send the
Yeah, work
email
with Gary.
to John Bond and
Yeah.
copy you and say, hey, this was our commissioner conversation. Just if he needs verification, he can
Sure.
clarify that.
Yeah. No,
We're not
that's
making stuff up again.
totally fine, Brian. And yeah, no, whatever we can do to help you guys move forward, I'm all about that. I just obviously have concerns about those pipes. I've had some experiences in the past with other projects in other counties with some of the bureau pipes and
Yeah.
it was painful enough that I recall it very vividly and it was, yeah.
Yeah, we all have those scars.
Yeah, you learn from that,
Dealing with
right?
your reclamation is never. fun.
They're interesting
Yeah, them
cats.
and UDOT, it's always, and Rocky Mountain Power, Questar Gas, we.
Yeah, exactly. Hence my reason for even bringing this up,
Yeah.
right? And so ideally, like I say, nothing happens. 10 years later, the bond expires and we're done, right?
Yeah.
So,
So it's really, this bonding has nothing to do with the surety improvements. It just has a surety.
repairing.
Correct.
That's right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Then you probably don't have any ordinances to cover whether it's bonding, escrow money or anything. Probably can decide how to do that.
Yeah, we'll have to create that as we go.
Yeah, just be nice to have a process in place because we're gonna be back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We cross it a lot.
Yeah, let's try to get that process resolved.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank
Anything
you.
else?
No, that's it.
Thanks,
We're excited to get
Gary.
on
Anything from you?
JDC.
Nope,
As we
that's
get
it.
this- As soon as we get this permit on JDC, we should be.
You want to sign? I'll take that.
All right,
As soon as my attorney's done reviewing it, I'd be happy to.
good luck.
You signed the exact same one many times. You can't change it at all. It's your own.
Well, I'm sure of that.
Once you get on some chairs.
I remember that too. No, I remember it just as well.
Thank you.
I haven't answered.
Thanks, guys.
Question of what happened with the building.
Oh,
It was actually a meteor that hit the
Serious?
atmosphere.
you're
And
lying.
they're not serious.
Uh,
And that boom was
Yeah.
felt all over northern Utah.
Oh, just that sound you just
Yeah.
heard?
Yeah.
Holy cow, where did it hit? Good thing I'm deaf.
I don't know exactly where it came through, but yeah, meteor coming through the atmosphere. That's
Wow.
what made that boom.
It was a sonic boom.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it moved
I know.
in here and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
That's a little scary.
Yeah, it is. It's a big impact, just a meteor.
Not yet. The report from the National Weather Service.
Wow,
Wow.
but no location. You can't see a location.
That's awesome. See my Jack?
Yeah, I was just telling them about that. Yeah, it shook in here.
We could film that.
Yeah.
Really.
You didn't feel anything?
I am.
Where were you?
I was down in our office.
Oh, you were?
I just came in when it probably happened.
We thought something fell on the roof.
Yeah.
or-
Yeah.
Mine and everybody didn't feel anything, but my ring neighborhood thing started going off. Boom, like 20
Wow.
cars.
Yeah.
North Ogden there.
It was like, boom, and it kind of shook in here. Tracy's painting, maybe he dropped a can.
Hey, man. You good with it? Should I? Let's get on with body cam.
So it's probably would not.
You get that email from Josh Clark?
No, I haven't seen it.
Guess we need to make a decision on that.
Unfortunately.
I got. Okay, Gary, boy, this has been Gary Day.
Boy, I guess. You guys tired of me yet?
Thanks for coming.
So we're done. Let's go into our next agenda item, 130, discussion regarding Huntsville roundabout lighting. Gary, Sean, Bill, Carly, Rick, Portland. Is here. Okay,
I invited some other folks, but they're not here yet, so.
okay. Chris is in the back of the room working away, so.
Commissioners, you received an email about this from Ron Gleason last week.
I did, yeah.
So just as part of this, if we can talk about.
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've got an answer on that. So, as you're aware, UDOT's in the process of designing a roundabout.
Design.
Correct.
I
thought it had already been designed. No, they're still working through that. I think they're only, honestly, Commissioner, I think we just had it may have been plan in hand or anyway, at whatever rate, there was a meeting happened last week while I was gone, but I was updated on it. Kind of probably to identify about 50 or 60% progress. So they're
Okay.
still working through the final
Well,
stages.
there was an issue with wetlands. There's an issue with not having enough area that they possibly have to buy
Yeah.
some additional ground. So
Yeah,
this is not like it's ready to start
No,
paving right
we're
now.
still quite a ways
Yeah,
away
that's-
from moving
That's
forward.
how I see it, yeah.
One of the issues that was brought up that caught my attention was the designer had put in some overhead street lighting on this. Quite a bit of it, actually. Well, really, in any of these areas, anything is quite a bit, because this is all in the area we've tried to stay dark sky compliant.
Right.
The challenge is you add any of those street lights, even with the protective shrouds, even with whatever measures you take or do to accomplish that dark sky compliance, there's still ambient light pollution that happens as a result of that.
Yeah.
So, my request was to not put the lights in to try to keep that dark sky compliance and stay in compliance with that. UDOT's going to push back a little bit on the grounds that this is a new change in conditions of this intersection. Currently, the intersection is only stop controlled in the east-west movement. The north-south movement is uncontrolled. So by putting this roundabout in, you are changing that expectation of traffic users in the north and the southbound direction. However, that being said, this is a large roundabout that has a significant site impact on this intersection. This intersection has had nothing really there in the way of overhead lighting for really since its existence. Motorists are very comfortable with it right now. I'm
I'm really not that concerned with the future impacts and challenges it might create as a result of this. I know that I spoke with, ironically, Jared Anderson happens to be the representative for Huntsville City on this one.
Who does?
Jared Anderson.
Okay.
And I spoke with him. I said, what's your stance on these lights? And he goes, we don't want them. They've got that hotel right there in town at Huntsville that kind of prides itself on having an observatory in it. You know,
Yeah.
if we put this in there, that could, well, it will have, you know, impacts to the dark sky issues. So I know that this is an issue that we could, if you guys are okay with telling UDOT we don't want lights, we can and will win on pushing back on this. I just wanted to make sure you guys were comfortable with this, and this was a decision you were on board with moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of lights there.
Okay.
And again, most of that traffic, and I can see it quite a bit,
Yep,
is gonna be on weekends,
that's right.
Friday through Sunday night, typically in the daytime.
Yeah.
You know, or first thing in the morning, there's people moving up to Southport.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of, you know, after it goes dark at night, usually, hopefully everybody goes back to Davis County.
well, and even if they're not, let's say it is dark, Commissioner Frower,
Right.
they're
Yeah.
gonna be making that movement
Right.
around the roundabout, so the vehicle lights themselves will
Yeah,
create that awareness that conditions have changed if somebody is by chance somehow not familiar with the changes with this intersection.
Yeah.
So,
As much as I'd like to see
yeah, oh, there will be, absolutely.
Reflective signage now.
no,
Yeah,
it's not necessary, you know, the traffic up there is just ridiculous now
yeah,
on weekends. But the lights aren't gonna solve that,
right.
and the roundabout's gonna go a long ways for some type of control down on that intersection, but I don't see a need for the light myself.
Well, and with the saved money, it will probably see as a result of not putting in the amount of light posts they had. I don't
Yeah.
think UDOT's gonna push super hard on
Yeah,
this, right?
they've already
So-
said it's over budget.
Yeah, we're way over budget. We're way over budget on this. So not we, they, excuse me.
So we're helping them out.
We're helping, yeah,
We're doing them a favor on this one, so.
Well,
That's-
whatever standard we set on that roundabout will likely set the same
Mhm.
standard when subsequent roundabouts come.
You bring up a great point, Commissioner Harvey. If you go back in time to the roundabout we put in the Uinta area there on Foamby and
Where's
Skyline.
Colby and Skyline.
oh, yeah.
There's no overhead lighting on that one either. So we didn't.
That's why the vegetation is the trees and all that's been gone. Right? Okay.
No, actually, we had an issue with the irrigation on that one from the get-go. So, but there is no overhead lighting on that one, and really, I mean, I could go back and pull accident data if we need to, but you know, usually the footprint of the roundabout significantly increases in the intersection versus what the original intersection configuration was, and so it just adds to the overall awareness that it creates, and so.
Yeah,
I should get going on that sooner than
I
later.
know, it's the wetlands that's really been an issue, and honestly, to the point Sean brought up, Ron Gleason, is Ron on this call? I don't see his
He
name up
was.
there.
I thought it
Ron's, he's pretty regular participant. Anyway, Ron brought up that there's a nesting pair of ospreys on one of the poles in the area, and where we're at in the process and the progress of the project, there's no way construction will begin this year. Honestly, I don't see it happening until the earliest, maybe even in the fall, and I would imagine I don't know what you call them. Chicks at that point, osprey chicks, is that the correct nomenclature for them? I don't know, but I'm sure they would be out of the nest by then.
and I don't think I'll be surprised if you see it this fall,
Yeah,
frankly.
it'll probably, I think you're right, Commissioner Fro, it'll probably be next spring
That's
before
how
anything.
I see it.
And you'll have new eggs,
No, we won't. Stop it.
and you'll have to delay it until the fall.
No, it is a good concern to have, and I'm very,
I've got room for them over on my spot.
There
We'll
you-
transplant them over there. It's just a
We
mile.
can
away.
start building the nest over there.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think they're already, they love going out under my will line.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
do they really?
Yeah, there's 5 or 6 out there just under when the system's going. They
Uh-huh.
like the water.
They like
So-
that, just that
so-
mist.
They like that mist, yeah.
That doesn't bother the chicks in there.
Well, I don't know. I didn't see any chicks. These are all bigger birds, but I think the chicks are just over, not far away.
I'll
Well,
be done.
speaking of Beelzebub,
Yeah,
Sure.
we just were talking about it.
Hey, we started just a touch early. But that's okay. I went out looking for you and you guys, no one was there, so.
Are you here to talk about the slides? Yeah. Okay, we just
So
said
you
no.
want them in there?
What's that?
You want them in there?
No, I represent Huntsville Town, Mayor Sorensen, and we absolutely do not want lights, so.
He's on the line.
Oh, yes, so. Yeah, so I went to Gary was out of town, but we had a meeting with UDOT last week about this, and I told them, as far as I understood from Weaver County, said they also do not want lights. It's dark sky ordinance. We want to do everything we can not to have street
Okay,
lights.
well, you were representing correctly then.
You were spot on.
Yeah,
What meeting was it last week, Jared? Was it their 30%?
PSNE.
Oh, they're that far? Okay. Well, that's
Yes,
75%.
I actually don't know what that means either.
Plan specs and estimate.
There you go. So I think they had planned lights. The pushback I had was, the example I gave was Combi Drive and Skyline. It's the same, it's the same designer, JUB, and I kind of set them up because I knew we didn't have streetlights for that one. And initially the designer said, oh, any roundabout we've designed, we've put streetlights on. I said, well, how about, and he kind of pulled back a little bit, but I said, look, it's not that we don't want to be safe. And let's figure out ways to be safe. I mean, obviously 39 and people just going fast, we need to have hazards and different things coming up to that, but we don't have to, I don't believe we have to have streetlights by law, so I actually asked them to submit us the requirements of the law that states you have to have them. I don't think there is one.
Maybe instead of putting those lights in, they could put bigger caliper trees in the middle. Some nice landscaping.
There's plenty of water there.
I think it'd be nice.
And we're not
Like
lacking
put
for
some,
water.
put some roadblock white and red, like, oh,
Yeah. Well, the other thought on that though, Commissioner Harvey, the more open you keep it, the more, say we're in a situation where vehicles maneuvering around that roundabout, right? So they're gonna see vehicles blocking the intersection and the lights of the trailers or whatever. I'm saying that because we all know that every truck coming through there on the weekend going home is pulling a fifth wheeler or a boat or whatever.
You're right.
So.
I still want to see a statue of Gary right out there.
Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
You guys not seen enough of him?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody has, trust me. So.
Okay, well, I think we're a no vote on the lights.
Perfect.
Right.
Sounds good. I'll go back to UDOT. I'll convey that and it'll probably take some sort of an email with your support that I
Yeah.
may.
I think
Ask you for,
we
but-
can communicate that.
Rob can call.
And Mayor can step in if he'd like, but I think the main thing from Huntsville is just to combine with Weaver County, have kind of the combined front of saying we just don't want lights.
Mayor, I see you online. Did you want to make a comment?
Oh, he's got his hand up too.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
I am raising my hand. No, that's not what that is, Gary.
He's got to unmute.
Did I call it?
Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Yes, there you go.
All right.
Raise hand up.
No,
Gary,
we're
that's-
planning have their hand up.
I like to make sure everyone's well represented. So.
The only other thing they brought up while we're seeing if he wants to, but they did mention the dark sky ordinance.
Yeah,
They wanted, they said, well, what does it specify and what's required there? And they said they would get a hold of Charlie and make sure they're
Yeah.
also following the dark sky ordinance, so.
Who's they in this?
UDOT.
UDOT.
You don't.
Well, I technically to be JUB, the designer, but.
If they're not doing lights, then that's easy. Check, they're in compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, no lights.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they're trying to push that as much as they can, because they want to.
Well, let us know if we get any pushback from you, Doc.
For sure.
I think we'll be okay there.
Yep.
There may be some studies and stuff on that intersection already with regards to traffic and accidents and stuff, but we may not be out of the woods totally yet.
Well, and the hope is from a safety concern, that there's other methods and mechanisms.
Yeah.
I mean, we put stop sign on 3500 west and 2550 south. Man, if there isn't a road that's a straight shot, and we put a stop sign there. So I think there's ways to get there. But
I think there is.
Okay,
So what's your estimate on time since you've been working with you, Doc? Did you get any
I did
information as far as what their progress is?
So I jumped in the meeting for the lights and then I had.
Okay, so you don't know.
I'll
Okay.
get back to you on that,
Okay.
Commissioner. I'll check with him and because I'm gonna call the project manager on this and
Yeah.
have that conversation with him and I'll get you a better schedule timeline to
I'm sure we're gonna get questions on timing and
guaranteed.
let's just make sure we give accurate information.
But they'll probably, if we're June, the end of June right now, and they're at PSNE,
Yeah,
it's gonna take them at least 2 to 3 months to finalize it. And then that puts us in September. They're not gonna start construction on that project, probably till spring once.
That's how I see it.
So,
okay, Jerry, appreciate you being with us.
easy enough.
Gary, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Simple, pretty simple.
All right.
Gary,
Yes, sir.
Scott Carlson, is that?
William George?
We're gonna take a break here before we start our next agenda item. All right, we're back online and in person. This is 2 p.m. We're here to discuss the discussion regarding the Promontory Commerce Center PID governing doc. Brandon, Stephanie, Sean, and Scott Park. Brandon, do you want to start or do you want Stephanie to?
I think Stephanie's gonna head us off.
Okay, we are gonna be presenting the governing document, and this is in need of being adopting to create PIDs 1, 2, and 3. All 3 PIDs are in one area. But we've got it set up so that they can be triggered at different time points to facilitate the actual development of the project relative to the public infrastructure needs that are discussed in the governing document. We have met with Promontory and our legal team, and that includes our, and as well as our Economic Development Finance Committee and our financial advisors, which include Zions Bank and Randall Larson and Aaron Wade's team at Gilmore and Bell. So we're here to present that to you today. If you're ready to make that creation of the PID, we would do that tomorrow at 6 p.m. per the state statute, which will then create the public infrastructure district.
Okay.
And I'll have Brandon give you the finer points.
It's also going to not just create the district, but it will appoint the board members. So we've got board members that were listed on the petition submitted by Black Pine. Well, it's actually was submitted by the current property owner, Wadeland. Land, I believe. And they have been working with Black Pine, who will eventually be the owners. So we've got that all in order, where the current property owners have signed on for 100%. They've asked that certain people become the board members. These are agents of Wadeland Land, and they will then become agents of Black Pine when you do purchase the property. What else does it do? I think that is about it. Governing document creates the district and appoints board members.
Yeah, so one of the things it does address is it does mention the infrastructure and that the county will not be responsible for the sewer system. So, and I know that that was a concern of the county, and that is mentioned in the governing document.
Good.
And also mentions who will actually be taking on those infrastructure pieces. In order to create the PID, there has to be agreements put into place with local or legal districts that will take on the infrastructure, and that's also listed in the governing document.
We also made reference to the resolution passed by the sewer district for their request.
Yes.
Okay.
So Central Weaver is prepared to accept the trunk line, and which includes the lift station and some of the major infrastructure for sewer. And then I believe Weaver County, or was it West Haven
Or whoever in the future.
whoever in future will take the lateral lines. So we've got
Yeah.
sewer figured out, which I think was one of the major hiccups.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Other than that, bond council's reviewed it with us. We've reviewed it with the Economic Finance Committee. Seems like everybody's on board.
Okay.
It's the plat. Have you talked to the surveyor's office?
We have.
They're aware of the timeline of when we have to.
Yes.
give a notice of impending boundary
Yeah.
action.
We spoke with them last week, and Leanne's on board with all of that.
And we have Steve Collier, his team, currently reviewing the finer parts of the plat. So by the time we have to submit all the creation docs to the Lieutenant Governor's office, we should have a final local entity plat already in place and surveyor's office approved.
Good. Okay, what else, Stephanie?
That's it. Just wanted to make you aware of it and allow you to ask any questions if you have any questions pertaining to this governing document. If not, we'll proceed tomorrow at 6 p.m. to bring it to the commission for a vote.
For a yes or no vote?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Commissioner Bowles, questions,
No questions.
comments? Commissioner Harvey, 6 o'clock tomorrow,
Yes, 6.
just so you know.
Be there.
Mountain Standard.
You can thank the legislators for that.
Yeah. After I left.
Yes.
So, and I'm not anticipating issues with this because it's a sole ownership issue. We have to have 100% of the owners on board to complete. But if someone, a member of the public, has to come and speak out in opposition, in protest, is there anything in the statute that would delay the creation of the PID if that happens? Or do you just take that into the record and then the commission decides based on the public comment that's been received as to whether or not they will approve the PID?
I think with public infrastructure districts, and we got this from Snow Basin.
Right.
Our experience with Snow Basin, the protest period that would normally apply
It's
has
30
been waived
days.
by the petitioners.
Mhm.
So anybody else who might have issue with this, it will just have their voice heard during the public.
So they really wouldn't have standing, because if someone did protest and they lived within boundaries, you couldn't even create.
Correct.
Correct.
So
It has to have
anybody who lives
100%.
outside who just
Yeah.
has an issue with it, it would just be a consideration for the
Mhm.
commission to take into account.
Which is interesting. I mean, we probably ought to consider presenting legislative changes in the future for when it's just one owner and they do have 100%. Why you have to have a public hearing?
We asked bond council that
Yeah.
exact question.
Yeah.
And it was more so, let's err on the side of caution than not have the meeting, because that could shut the PID down if we didn't follow the statute.
We
That
should-
would actually be something that would shut the PID down.
We should
creation down.
absolutely do the public hearing. I was thinking the next legislative session, if we can clean that up and remove. the
Yeah.
requirement.
Absolutely.
Put that on our list.
We'll add that to our
No,
list.
that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make
100%
any-
ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently it was a recent change too.
I think it was an unintended change.
Mhm.
But we trust how our bond council
Yeah.
has interpreted the legislation.
Have you read
Consider,
the statute? Is that what it says?
I haven't, but our Aaron Wade and Maggie Larson said.
and they
that's-
wrote the original
All
one.
right, we'll take their word for it.
Instead of, coming up with my own interpretation and hoping it's right, decided to just go with their recommendation.
No, it's
Yeah.
probably a good idea. Okay, anything else? You guys, Daniel?
Not today,
All right,
just that.
we'll see you tomorrow at 6. We're meeting here, by the way. PM, yes,
We are?
not AM.
PM.
Yeah, the meeting's actually up here and
And you told me that.
It is?
let me double check.
Yeah, let's
I
check
think
that.
Shelley moved that.
I believe planning
Yeah, it
commission
is.
is in the chambers, so they.
I think we gotta have it
It
downstairs.
is here.
It's here.
Mhm. Yeah, it's in the conference room.
It is?
Yeah, because we had a conflict with planning commission.
Planning commission tomorrow.
Perfect.
Here?
We'll let the public stand around.
Okay, well, I'm sure there'll be a lot, so. Yeah. Have all sorts. So it is here then.
It is here in this room.
All right, good.
Okay,
Glad you let us know. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks for being online with us.
Yeah, sorry, Mark. Good to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Mark with Gardner. We had our bond council on there and Brennan Brown.
Oh,
Those are
good.
all our-
Welcome.
Like to bombard you with as many.
No, that's good. It all worked out great. Thank
See you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, entertain a motion to Sonner. We got the sheriff coming in at
2:30.
2:30.
So moved.
Second, Going again, looks like we've lost everybody that members of the public. All right, we're gonna get started with our
I'm,
3 o'clock, but it's actually 2:30, Weber County Sheriff's Office update. Sheriff Arbon,
so I'm thinking I only have a handful of things.
okay?
The two ones that primarily have to deal again with property. And the second item is has to deal with employees.
Okay,
Which I would probably recommend we go to close on that.
you wanna talk to from personnel first? or building? Well, I guess either way,
Property and personnel.
so I guess,
Yeah,
all right. I
Are we
entertain
okay with that?
So it's to talk about the character and competence of an individual.
it can. So, yes, it does.
So with those in particular, you have the option to record or to not record. So we'll have to make a motion. It'll be up to you. If you don't record, I'll prepare an affidavit for you to sign saying that that's the reason we went into closed session.
My question was if, because it wasn't advertised, are we okay to do that?
It would be as part of the sheriff's update.
Okay,
So I think we could tie that in.
I'm fine with that.
All right, so do you recommend we record?
On personnel issues, I always recommend, why you say that it, just go with the affidavit. Because I don't know what we're gonna be
Yeah,
discussing.
I think we do
That
that.
one in security issues, I usually say just the affidavit.
Yeah, I just soon stay with that if we can. Okay, I entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Motion, go to closed session to discuss the character of the personnel
Second,
and the property.
And property. All those in favor, say aye. Aye, motion carries. We're now in closed session,
Kendra will need to
and
leave.
we better
Yeah.